It's literally the dying minutes of the year. And I think all of us are feeling like this has been a heck of a year. And the past week and a half has kept us all kind of up into the night. I don't know if all of y'all were doing what I was doing, kind of waiting up into the night to see the shenanigans happening in Nasrec. So it's been a long week. It's been a very long week. Yay, we're up and running. Fantastic. Thank you everybody for letting me know that you can hear me. Yes, it is Puza Thursday. But are we still like heavy with the Puza Thursday, guys? Is Puza Thursday still a big thing? Or did we kind of let that go with did we kind of let that go with the lockdowns and when we all had to scramble and make pineapple beer? I am also, you know what, I am gonna, I'm gonna start it up a little bit different and start with news headlines. And I'm hoping that the producers sent us headlines that are not too heavy this week, that the headlines that they're sending us are kind of like appropriate headlines for people that are still slogging it out, keeping the economy going, showing up to work, getting up early in the morning to get the day ready. This has made me now take my first drink for the day. How, Yonda? What kind of first drink? I hope that first drink for the day is coffee. Um, Let me see. What is in the news headlines today? Another cool Christmassy news story which is in IOL. I'm still not sure about IOL. I'm still not trusting IOL completely unless they show us the babies. But this is Santa the Seal stops traffic as it crosses a busy road in Cape Town. Oh, this is a really cool story. It is a really cool story. Cape Town motorists and residents along Jake's Jerville. Is it Jerville? Jerville? Drive in Cape Town were left with mouths hanging open after a seal was seen casually waddling across the busy road on Wednesday morning. The busy intersection at Klipfontein quickly came to a halt to allow the seal to cross over safely. Oh wow, I'm so glad they did stop because some people can be even at this time of the year driving quite recklessly on the roads. And here, as the seal nonchalantly waddled its way across the road, members of the City of Cape Town's enforcement agencies secured the area as they waited the arrival of the Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, SPCA. And once the SPCA inspectors arrived, the seal was loaded into a steel container and taken away. I wonder where they take the seal. I don't know where Gareth is this morning, but we are trying to find him. It's not Beer O'Clock Neil. I think it is just very, very hectic. I think that this morning was just very hectic. I almost didn't make it this morning because I myself wasn't quite sure. There was a little bit of a confusion about whether we're having a live show today or whether we're going to be using the time for pre-recorded shows. And so when Dory sent me a message last night saying, "So what's your talking point?" I actually had a moment of what do you mean? And here I am, even though we went to a party yesterday. Here I am, 5 hours of sleep on the other side of this, and how, Kabelo, do I remind you of Holomisa or an ENCA? I hope it's not because I'm stuttering. Because what was he talking about that day when he was on ENCA? The seal was unharmed and released to the coast. Thank you, Francis, for giving us that update. You know, though, what I did want to chat about this morning, which maybe you all can help me out with this. A friend of mine at the office has been talking to us about what she calls high stakes winging it, as that's what happens when you are an adult. You don't really know what you're doing. You're winging it half the time, but the stakes are so high. So you just keep like floating and floating. And every time now, I'm asking myself when I'm not sure about what it is that's happening. And I was like, even over the past weekend, I was like, yeah, these guys are now high stakes winging it. The stakes are so high. It is your career, it is your life, and sometimes, but we're all just winging winging it and trying to get by. I see Congo Chris here having cornflakes and tequila. That definitely sounds like high stakes winging it. Cornflakes and tequila this early on a Thursday morning. It is still Thursday, guys. So even though it is December, I think that Decembering and the Puza Thursday should can only start after 12. Only after 12. And even though it's 12 o'clock somewhere in the world, let's be a little, you know, hold ourselves together here, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen. Coffee for coffee, Sanele. That's a good beverage to start the day off with. Is anyone in the comments still going to work? Are y'all still out there kind regarding on your emails? Or are the emails still finding you well? If you're on holiday, let me know. If you're already on holiday, tell me what you're up to. And how's the Christmas winging? How's the Christmas spirit? Has it taken on, or has the Eskom Grinch stolen your Christmas? Last day tomorrow, Mwekezi. Today is going to be a very long day. Today is going to be a very long day because I think a lot of people have already left the office. Driving in here this morning, it was very quiet on the roads. Very, very quiet on the roads. Tracy, miracles may happen. I get this, but I think we are high stakes winging it, especially when it comes to like raising kids. Constantly reminding my 12-year-old that he is a rookie at being a teenager, and I'm a rookie at being a mom of a teenager. So you're just winging it together. You see what I mean? That's exactly what it is. Goon says high stakes winging it sounds like a lack of guidance. Yeah, Goon, you tell me where you got that guidance book that tells you how to do this life thing, especially being an adult. Where did you get that guidance book? Because I need to get me one of those copies. And most days, you're kind of every day, you're creating a new reality. And that's always kind of winging it because you don't know. You don't know. Nobody's lived this life that you're living in this time that you're living today. So it's always, but the stakes are high, so we're all just winging it. And I was reminded of this very much the other day when I was watching Sam Bankman-Fried, SBF, as he was taken away in his shackles in the Bahamas, and now I think the extradition process has started. I was clear that this guy has been winging it. He has been winging it, and the stakes were billions and billions of dollars. Those are high stakes. Who is this? Corona's boring is saying the Black Women's Business League is forcing me to go and work today. They are my damsel in distress. I don't even know what does the Black Women's Business League do? And why are they the damsel in distress today? Um, and Corona's boring. I'm sure whatever it is that they do and what you're doing to try and save them is also probably some kind of high stakes winging it. Goon says the Bible is his instruction manual. In some things, I don't know if it's the kind of instruction manual that gets you through a crazy day like we're having this morning. I don't know if it's the kind of. Are you coming on? Aaron's coming on the show because I don't know. He's smiling and he's going to tell us what's going on. Ricky Lowe, we don't know where Gareth is. We think he has overslept. It happens once in a very, 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 very blue moon that Gareth has a bad morning and can make it onto the show. And this is one of, I think, in all the years that I've known him, I've only known him to oversleep this deeply and not even make it in the first 20 minutes of the show. I don't think I've ever seen it. I think the last time I saw that happen, it was probably on 5FM. I don't think he's hungover, Chris. I don't think he's hungover. Underscore says, let's go and lobola with my bonus money. Wow. That is amazing news. Congratulations. We'll start our marriage broke, broke, broke. A marriage is also high stakes winging it. Underscore. A marriage is also high stakes winging it. And starting out with zero money is not a bad way. You start out with a clean slate and you build it all as you go along. Sia would never have allowed this to happen. I don't know how Sia would have never allowed this to happen. What could he have done? There's absolutely nothing. Aaron has been, he's like home alone, left with all the reins. And, and Aaron, this is what you do. You don't get us, Gareth, on air on time.
Guys, it's been
You don't
tough.
start phoning at 6.
No, 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 no. Firstly, hi everybody. Um, it's not that I phoned at 6, as I've been phoning Gareth, guys. Like from the moment I got to the studio, I phoned and I'm like, Joe, Joe,
At
Joe.
quarter to 6.
I'm like, this. Normally, what happens is that when I log on, right, I see, okay, he's here. Chiggy, Chiggy. Today I don't see him, and I'm like, oh, this is gonna be a bad day. But you know what? We move, we move.
This is exactly right. We move. So there
Mm.
was only, so you tell me, I'm asking the guys because this has been on my mind a lot since a
Mm-hmm.
colleague of mine brought it up, that most of being an adult is winging it. It's like just, she calls it high stakes winging it because you don't really know what you're doing and you're trying to like make this thing and you know. So
Mm-hmm.
what do you think about high stakes winging it? Do you think we're all high stakes winging it
I feel like at this point in time, right now,
today?
yeah, we're not today. Like I see every other day. We're not today. Today we are winging it, guys. Like not even a little bit. Like we are winging it. But hey, high stakes winging it. I think, especially around this time of the year, even just with end of the year fatigue and everything happening, people are just. It is what it is right now. I'm just trying to get to the 23rd. Those ones who got lucky and got it 15, they were out,
Mm.
had that nice long weekend. They've been nice. Oh, and now with that last week, that last stretch week, everything has been winging it. Whether you're in creative, corporate, wherever, everybody's just winging this week.
Although, so this December here in Joburg has been particularly wet. It's been basically raining every day.
Mhm.
On some days, it's we've even had freak hailstorms. So it's crazy, crazy, crazy. But what it is not, and this has kind of helped me kind of wing it into the end of the year, is when there is no sunshine, you don't feel like you're missing out on you know, if you're not on leave, like when there's no sunshine, it is my worst thing. It's kind of like a great sunny day, and you're at the office sending emails, checking up on stuff,
You know,
following up,
you know,
and
I'm not gonna lie to you. Because I work so far from home, personally, I appreciate the like sunny days.
mm,
I'm telling you, not even long ago. I think it was literally yesterday morning. I drove here in a storm in the morning. And do you know, in 3, people do not know how to drive on that highway.
people, I think more and more people are on the road and they don't know how to drive, and they're all in these small cars that completely freak me out because they look like they like out of balance. They're like these small cars with even smaller wheels, people, and they're speeding or they're driving very slowly in the fast lane.
Ah. Do you know a lady saw me today? Actually,
A lady swore at you.
today, yeah, this morning on my way here.
This was before 6 in the morning. You
Before,
are already
yeah,
aggravating people to
yeah, no,
swearing at you.
no. I believe right on the highway, right. There's the slow lane, then there's those 2 middle lanes for good good drivers, and then there's that fast lane, right. Speed limit says 120. Mara, if you're on that fast lane, it means you are okay with getting a speed ticket, right? That's my philosophy of when it comes to highways.
That is stupid.
No, it's not. You cannot be on that fast lane or driver 120 and expect the cars behind you to be like, oh no, good Samaritan. No, then go into the middle lane. So what happened is I was literally on my way here and I thought I was late. Gandhi. Never mind. But like, I thought I was late, so I'm literally like speeding down. Does this lady not decide, nah, I'ma show this guy. I'ma slow down. So me, I feel like flashing lights, I feel like that's a bit rude and a little
It's not
too.
a bit rude, it is very rude.
Yeah, so I don't do that, right? but I also have Nkani. I'm stubborn, right? So I will stay there and we will continue this thing together, right? You slow down. I will keep your pace, but I will still be behind you. It's going to be a marathon of who has the most Nkani between me and you.
Aaron, do you understand that at that time in the morning, there are open lanes? You don't have to be in the lane behind this person. Don't be that person. Aaron, bona
No,
manje, the kind of day
no,
you're
no, no,
having.
no, no, no. Mara, if we're being honest, she also is supposed to know that there are open lanes and she doesn't have to be that person. And worse, her off ramp is on the other side. Why is she not there? Why is she
No,
not there?
no, 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 no. Yeah, that's not what you're on the road. You are not on the road to police other people and what they do.
No, yeah, I'm not on the road to police other
So why
people
are
on
you
what they
driving
do.
behind people, aggravating them?
Mara, why are you driving slow on the fastest lane? Where's
It's not for you to decide. It's not for you to police.
where's you're not
George
even
Meany is
driving
on here. George Meany is on here, and he is the he
always.
he is the like auto central ace,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm,
And
mm.
I think George agrees with me. Flashing lights is very rude, but also you're not. Don't drive fast, guy. Don't drive fast. And in the rain, people are stupid. George agrees with me. People get stupid in the rain. For some reason, I think the worst thing for me is in the rain, people who put on their hazards and then slow down. I was like, I don't know why this has become a thing. I drove to Pretoria yesterday, to an event yesterday afternoon, and there was a
Mm-hmm.
major storm yesterday afternoon, driving on the N14 to get to Pretoria. The visibility was very, very low.
Mm-hmm.
People with their hazards. Now, I don't know if when you want to change lanes and they don't know how to signal when they're trying to change lanes. Absolutely. Just, I think everybody needs to relearn the rules of the road. And we all need to follow the rules.
Mm-hmm.
And the rules do not say, Aaron, that you get to be the person policing people and how fast or slow they are driving.
See, me, I feel like on a highway, the minimum speed, George Meany, it needs to change. At least put it at
Why?
80. At
No,
least on a
why?
highway.
Why?
And
You're
like
just
no, 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 no,
aggressive
no, 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 no.
so
Actually,
early in the morning. You're an aggressive driver,
actually no.
4-lane highway.
Me
You could
kenale
have
road.
just let the
I
lady
have road
go.
rage. I do have road rage, but today I didn't have road rage.
You
I
did.
I didn't. I just had a what would call this a moment of stubbornness. I didn't have road rage because when she swore at me as she was going to her off ramp, I looked at her and I smiled and I was like, "It's okay. Your day has been ruined." So I kept it moving.
So is yours. Look at you talking
No,
about this
but you see,
nonsense, this
but me,
foolishness.
but me now, it's become a talking point. It's like, hey, welcome to the life of Aaron Mudise every morning. And there's been worse days. I think there's days where I've driven with Simpiwe in the morning and she's seen my road rage like proper.
So
And
I think just for perspective, for
mm,
all the people that are listening and watching,
mhm,
generally,
yes,
you are driving into the office from about 5 a.m.
yeah,
And on any day at that time of the morning, there are very few people on the road with whom to exercise this road rage, right? Like, why, dude?
mm,
There are 4 lanes,
I'll give you.
there is ample space, and you don't
Mm,
need to get on anybody's nerves, and nobody needs to get on your nerves.
I'll
But
give
you're
you.
seeking it out.
Oh no, oh no. Let me tell you something. Me, I do. Hey, like
You
you see,
seek it
if
out.
I see a taxi,
Is this your
especially,
thrill? Is this your
especially,
thrill?
let me, yo, you see, when I see a taxi, let me tell you, when I see a taxi in the fast lane and it's going slow, I am on that taxi's backside. I'm not playing games. I bring out all the frustrations from that how taxis behave in like suburban areas and casies and everything on the highway. We're like this, me and you. Me and you are like this. I will
Mm.
be on you. I will flash lights. I've made a traffic officer move. That's how much
Why? What is this? What is this?
No,
Is
you
this
see, the
the
traffic of
thrill?
no, yeah, the traffic officer one was a thrill. I needed to see, could I do it? Could I do it? Some people is there to attest to this. I just wanted to see, could I do it? Could I pressure a traffic officer to move to switch lanes so I can pass? And when they did, oh, celebration! That's how I get to work happy.
Right here is a demonstration of how you see, if we had some kind of manual, this is your winging it. This is how you're winging it through life. You're just like aggressively like staring people down on the freeway for no reason, for absolutely no reason. You're gonna get shot. That's what's gonna happen.
Guys, can somebody go Congo Christmas
Hmm?
to order?
What?
Busy Mona. Very nice of Pumi to bring her son to the show.
Oh no,
Guys, I know, right? I know. Sis
no!
Pumi has
Don't
like
be
really
that
good
way.
genes, right? I
Mm-mm.
know.
Listen. All I'm saying, Aaron, how old are you?
I am 27.
You're 27,
Yes, yes, yes,
and
yes,
you've been
yes.
behaving in this manner for how long?
Woo! Mm. See, how long have I been driving? That's how we must start this thing. Um, no, I'd say the last 4 or so years, I've been very much exercising my free will when it comes to the road. Mm.
And what have you ever thought about the worst case scenarios?
Oh, oh! The worst case scenarios I've thought about them, and they've almost happened many a times. Exhibit A. So this is even worse. This is winter time now, so it's really dark, right? And I still had my i10, right? And i10 is all tinted and everything, sharp. Eh, I press a taxi, right? But this is not in my realm, mind you. This is not highway. This is, I'm on my way to the highway. Uh, and now, when I press this taxi, he moved. So he basically moves out the way, right? And then there's another taxi next to him. So I start following that taxi, and I'm basically paced with that taxi now. So now that taxi is like stuck behind us, and we traveling slow now. So that man got really mad. And he has passengers in there. He got mad. And then eventually, fine, I let him go. And then he overtook me and then stopped in front of me. Right?
Cut you off.
Yeah. Cut me off, literally stopped. Bah! Sims and I in the car, like, oh
Oh,
shit.
you're also like putting some Piwe's life in danger in this way.
I give her a thrill of a life. Like without me, Simpia's life would probably be like so standard and boring,
Right.
guys.
So the taxi driver has now cut you off.
Yeah, and then he opens the door, and I'm thinking, Guzo, yo, it's about to go down. In my head, I'm like, okay, how do I play this off? Which culture am I appropriating so that this makes sense, right? In my head, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna be a colored boy. At least then, Yabona. Then me, colored boy, come out, Zulu boy comes out. We'll see Pambili, you know?
I don't know what colored boy.
No, no, no. So to give you a backstory on this part is that I cannot, I don't look aggressive. I don't. There's no part of me that says this boy can probably beat me up. No, there's no part of me that says this until, so before I say that. So,
Until what? I
no,
look at you and I think I could probably kick your ass.
ebo, ebo. And that's my problem. That's why
That's why you have this rage. I agree.
yeah.
I agree with you, Cabello. We need to send him to have a consultation with Dr. Hanan because I don't think that this is like your frontal cortex having not
No.
like crystallized and matured. I think this is way deeper. I think, I think that I think you're like actually crazy. And I think I now know why insurers will always charge more to insure young men
Mara,
because you're insane.
no, Mara young men like me are actually calmer. These old guys.
None of what you've just described.
No, no, no. I'm the exception in this rule because I also do this for my enjoyment. Also, therefore, just on a side note, I do this for my enjoyment, right? Mara, yeah, I was saying, mm, yeah. So the culture of me that I appropriate, right, is the colored community. Because at least I look at them and I'm like, okay, they have like that stature nyana, the small stature nyana with a little bit of yellow bone going. So I'm like, okay, you know what? Maybe if I pull off my Hong Kong colored accent, and I'm just take off my glasses nyana, put my cap nice, then I can get by. Th- Thank the Lord. This taxi driver just, I think because my windows are also tinted, he wasn't sure what's going on in this car. He just opened, made a noise, and then drove off. In my Me and Sims are there in the car like,
You probably shat your pants.
ah, ah, Marayo, deep down. You know when your heart is by your bonzi. You know when yeah,
Okay,
I was
now
like,
this is crazy. Let me do you have Dory's running order yet, so we can also do
yes,
some news
yes. I
stories?
think I
I
think
think
you
it's
do
time
as
that we
well.
went into the like calmer things that are happening out in the news,
Nice
because
little.
it's people. It is still a Thursday morning, and people do not want to know what's happening in the news. So let's see what's in the news.
You should, excuse me. You should have it on your mail. Actually,
Yeah, but my mail is on my uh phone.
where guys, you see,
So you call it up and let's look at some news stories. What was it? I yesterday I want to say I don't
mm,
know what happened in the news yesterday, because I did actually um only spend half a day in the office,
mm-hmm.
and spent the second half of the day getting ready to go to a party in the evening. I was that excited about going to a party. It's been a long time. So I don't even know what happened in the news. And I got home so late. Ordinarily, I would have woken up about an hour before coming into the show, to see what's happening in the news, to look at the timeline, see what the trending topics are, so that I at least have all of that. And this is what happens when you then decide to wing it. See, because this morning I decided yesterday that I'm winging it today, because I did not think I was going to have to come in today. And I had
Mm.
all these other plans. So I was like, I'm going to wing it. And this is what happens when the stakes are high. Now I'm winging it and I don't have any news stories. Let me see what else is in that.
There we go.
Let's see what's trending. Shall we look at what's trending
Yeah,
today?
yeah, yeah.
Oh dear, these are all boring stories. Oh, this is an exciting story. Serial killer, the serpent, Charles Sorbach, to be freed from Nepal jail. Ooh, I love stories about serial killers.
Hey, what? No, no, no. Let's go back to this
A
thing.
French serial killer
Mm.
portrayed in BBC drama The Serpent is to be freed from a Nepalese prison
Nepalese
after a
prison.
court ruling. Charles Sobraj, I think is how you say his name, who spent 19 years in jail for the murder of two tourists in Kathmandu in 1975, has been ordered to return to France within 15 days. Sobraj was linked to a string of other tourist murders in the 70s and spent 20 years in a prison in India. Oh my word. A
So,
prison in Nepal and a prison in India.
so this guy specializes in just killing tourists.
His victims were mostly young Western backpackers on the hippie trail in India and Thailand. The notorious killer had been serving two life sentences, each 20 years, in Nepal's capital for the murder of an American woman, Connie Jo Bronzich, and her Canadian backpacker friend, Laurent Carrera.
Mm.
He was convicted in two separate trials, most recently in 2014, when he was sentenced to 20 years in a high security prison for murdering the Canadian. But Nepal's Supreme Court has ordered Subraj released on Wednesday after his legal team successfully filed a petition claiming he should be given a concession on his prison term due to his age. 78 years old. Jesus Christ.
I mean, it was wow.
So I have
Okay.
not seen this show, The Serpent. Now I have
Neither
to
have
go
I.
look for it.
Neither have I. I still haven't watched what's that Doma what that that serial killer series on Netflix.
Jeffrey
Doma.
Dahmer.
Yeah, it's on you. Still haven't watched that.
Here's another one. Are we going to talk about the ANC lists? I'm waiting for Mash. You must phone Mash and find out where he is. Mash wanted to come in the first 15 minutes of the Burning Platform today, we're going to talk a little bit about the conference. We're going to talk a little bit about what we saw, what we heard, what we didn't see, and what our thoughts are. And Mash is desperate to come and share his perspective as a young person in South Africa. So I'm going to leave the ANC stuff out of this headline. But here's a headline that people would love to hear. It's about the war in Ukraine and everybody's favorite president, Zelensky, who is in the US. Ukraine Zelensky visits US as Russia's war continues. I wonder what he could be doing in the US. What do you think he's doing in the US?
He's probably trying to negotiate.
Negotiate? But he's not fighting with the US. What is he negotiating with? He's fighting with Russia.
Yeah, he doesn't want. He wants the US to be involved so that Russia stops this.
So he's addressing a joint meeting of Congress today. And he's there to express he did. So it was yesterday that he was addressing the joint meeting of Congress. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky expressed gratitude for US support in fighting Russia in an impassioned address to Congress during his first overseas trip since the war began. And Zelensky called for more US help and stronger sanctions against Moscow, telling lawmakers we will never surrender and that their support is not charity, but an investment in democracy. Wah, wah, wah. We need a sound. We need a sound like that because I don't know.
You see, the person who has these sounds.
The person who has these sounds.
Where he is.
8 teenage girls charged with a deadly stabbing in Toronto, of all places.
8 teenage girls.
Sounds like a bullying incident gone horribly wrong.
Stabbing, though. That's almost gang violence.
8 teenage girls have been charged with murder in the Saturday night stabbing, oh my goodness, of a 59-year-old man in downtown Toronto, authorities said. Police said the girls, aged between 13 and 16, seemed to have met online before meeting in person on the night of the attack, possibly for the first time. They were arrested near the crime scene shortly after midnight on Sunday. The man, who has not been named yet, had been living in a shelter for the homeless at the time of the assault. He does have a very supportive family in the area, so I wouldn't necessarily call him homeless. Maybe just recently on some bad luck streak. Toronto Police Detective Terry Brown told reporters. Okay, so this is a crazy story. The girls are believed to have assaulted and stabbed the victim in Toronto's downtown core, an area filled with high-end condominium towers and hotels, following an altercation. Police believe the man may have been preyed upon because he was spotted carrying some alcohol. A group of bystanders flagged down the emergency services after finding the man with stab wounds. The man was rushed to a nearby hospital with serious injuries and died shortly thereafter. Police said the teenagers swarmed the man, adding the attack was a prolonged back and forth on the victim involving all 8 of the teenagers. Yay.
All 8 of them.
This is a
that's
very hectic story.
That's dark.
Definitely a Netflix documentary in the making. 8 girls meeting online to come together to go stab and like hunt down homeless people and stab them.
The first thing that popped up in my head was, I wonder what he did to them, like individually in some sort of way. But now, as the story was going, I was like, Ah, this one. Mm-mm.
What else? This one is ANC related, but not NEC related. Zuma does not have a valid certificate to prosecute Ramaphosa, says NPA. So you may remember that at the very last minute, just before the the conference started last week, there was a notice given, sent out, a newsflash sent out by the Jacob Zuma Foundation that Ramaphosa must now stand down because they have issued, so part of their private prosecution, which includes Billy Downer and includes Karen Moon, they have now joined Cyril Ramaphosa as an accessory after the fact. And therefore, he is also now charged and must step down. Created quite a little bit of a stir, particularly amongst the Windsists. And it possibly, there was quite a lot of talk of possibly, could this be Zuma's last minute checkmate? But it was not to be. As we now all know, that the conference went ahead rather successfully for President Cyril Ramaphosa.
Yeah.
And yesterday, a statement was put out by the NPA clarifying, because what this was about was, the NPA has to put out a statement and nolly prosecute. So basically, a declining to prosecute a particular matter before a private prosecution can kick in. And that's why the private prosecution of the matter of whether Zuma's medical certificates were leaked by Billy Downer and Karen Moon. That's what this is about. And why they have joined Cyril Ramaphosa, I'm not quite sure. But Cyril Ramaphosa is apparently one of the people that they have decided they're going to have a private prosecution against, also relating to the issue of the leaking of the documents. And yesterday, so they have this certificate from the NPA, and this is what they were using to say that they are taking President Cyril Ramaphosa to court. And so the NPA needed to clarify what was happening. And the NPA's clarification in the statement that they released is that the certificate former President Jacob Zuma built his private prosecution of President Cyril Ramaphosa on does not apply to Ramaphosa. The certificate that states the NPA does not intend to prosecute a person is a requirement of a private prosecution. Last Thursday, on the eve of the 55th conference, the Jacob Zuma Foundation, of which the corruption accused former president is the patron, announced he would privately prosecute Ramaphosa. Zuma accused Ramaphosa of being an accessory after the fact to crimes committed by, among others, advocate Billy Downer in an alleged breach of the NPA Act. The state attorney on Ramaphosa's behalf responded with a letter in which it expressed the belief that Zuma made this move to prevent Ramaphosa from being elected to a second stint as ANC president. The party gave Ramaphosa the green light to participate in the internal leadership election, which he won. The state attorney stated that the document delivered to Ramaphosa's private residence did not include such a certificate in relation to Ramaphosa. Zuma's lawyers disputed this in their response to the state attorney, and his foundation indicated in a tweet it had no intention of withdrawing its prosecution. And I'm not continuing with the story because, and the fast continues. It's going to be a long road. It's going to be a long road. Chinchilla, I am going to watch The Serpent. I can not watch it after that story that we just read.
This is Phumi.
Yes.
I just want, before I head out and I give the floor to Mash because Mash has arrived, I just want to know from you, because do you think the ANC is still gonna win the 2024 elections at the rate things are going?
I never thought the ANC was going to win the 2024 election even before the rate things are going. So I don't know how, but one of these days I need to sit down with somebody and we need to go back into like old burning platform, listen to the files and find the voice notes. But At the beginning of this year, I remember saying on the Burning platform that this year is going to see seismic shifts in the political landscape of South Africa. That there are many things happening, and all of those things, notwithstanding the ructions within the ruling party, but there are many moving parts in politics here in South Africa. And they're all kind of laying the foundation for what the next 2 years
It's gonna look like.
are going to look like.
Okay.
And all of those are really and truly about major shifts, but major shifts in the political landscape of this country. And I think that is something I say on the show all the time, that all of us as individuals need to make a very concerted decision of how we are going to participate in this changing landscape to ensure that the future of our country, our own futures, and those of us who have children or plan on having children in this country, that future does not get snatched away by liars, thugs, and deceivers. Somebody mentioned here that one of the what they think is the manual to stop us from high stakes winging it through life is the Bible, and that's my little goon. That's my little like Bible reference.
I mean, in some places, yeah. You know, just one more thing on this, right? From my side, is my worry, right, when it comes to especially the elections, is that I think as people, we at a point where we're just saying we know it's not, we don't want the ANC back in power. I think as a collective we've gotten there. My problem is that also as a collective, I feel like we haven't gotten to a point where we're saying, okay, this is who we're voting for. Or so now I feel like, when the voting is so scattered.
So can I bring this conversation down to a more kind of surface level?
Okay.
You as Aaron,
Yes.
27 years old in 2022, do you vote?
Yes.
Do you know why you vote for the people you vote for?
See, at first I thought I did, right?
Okay.
So I'll use the municipality elections, for example. I'd vote for the nearest municipality because they were the ones that, I guess, maintained our area, or in some way
That's
or
what
form.
they're
Yeah.
supposed to do.
But then over time and the older I got, I realized that maintenance of the area was just not being maintained. And I started falling, like, how I'd say, I knew less and less about the people who are currently running for this thing. And now it became a situation where I'm like, okay, municipality elections have come. Okay, but who's this guy? And it's like, oh, I don't even know what the last guy didn't do the job. I don't know this guy. And I'm now not voting because I believe that they will bring change. I'm now voting out of, it's like, loyalty to a group, you see. And now that's because now I'm at a point where I'm just like, I don't want to vote out of loyalty for a group. I want to vote knowing that this person is actually going to do the job. And now I'm actually doing my mini research, on very surface level research, to be like, okay, what has this person done in the past that I can now say, okay, bet in the future there's a possibility that they will actually fix this thing. And what's their view on the current setup? Because a lot of times it's like they make a noise saying, hey, this person didn't do this person didn't do this. And then we as the people who vote get caught up in that and be like, oh, so they notice, therefore there's going to bring change. But in reality, their past will tell you if they were able to bring change. But we don't do that research. And yeah, so I'm there, yes, right now. Yeah.
So the two very important things that you, you are now aware of is the fact that you have to do some background research. You can't just listen to the rhetoric that you hear all over. You really have to know what these individuals and these policies and this, because that's all you have, right? Is you can only know these individuals and these policies, and when you vote for them, you give them support. You lend them your vote with the support that you agree with and believe the things that they are saying. And then you don't walk away from them once you have given your support in the form of the vote. You hold them accountable. You show up when you need to show up. You make a noise when you need to make a noise about who or when or what they are doing, they are saying, and all of the rest. It can't just be, and this is what I mean by each and every one of us, but it's also about standing up. So for those people who do have the skills, the knowledge, the time, the passion and the want, right? It's also about like putting your hand up and getting into the structures of those places, those people, those policies, those parties that that kind of talk to the things that you participate, volunteer for them, spread their message. I think a lot of people talk about knowing what party they believe and what those policies are. I get lots of emails about this. Right? But they don't give their time. They don't give themselves to it, right? They don't give their time to be part of spreading the message of whatever the party that they believe in is saying, and the message that's out there that's spreading it. So I know a lot of people, there are people in the comments, there's some people in the comments talking about whether they, Steve E says, love the optimism that they will just hand over the keys. Think Mina, and we spoke a little bit about this last week, and I think that for me, the fantastic thing about what we saw in Nasrec this past week, and what we have been seeing over the past couple of years, is that the ruling party is in such disarray. They cannot they cannot even begin to organize amongst themselves. They are too distracted to organize, to keep the whole of us subjugated under their thumbs because of whatever. We even spoke about a military coup. Speaking of which, I forgot to check. I heard. I know. I forgot to check. I heard something last night, which made me think, what's happening in Lesotho?
What is happening in Lesotho?
I don't know. I forgot to check. I need to Angela, guys. I'm winging it here today. But Stink Mina raises something we've spoken about on the show as well. That in 2019, only 16 million people voted out of a possible 40 million people of eligible voters. And seemingly nobody wants to talk about the 24 million plus who don't vote. Of course, they don't want to talk about it. It works for them.
It does.
It works for them when less people show up to vote.
Don't those votes default to the ruling party?
No, they don't default. Well, they sort of default in that this is the flow of democracy. Democracy is about the rule of the many who vote.
Yes.
The many of those who vote. So 16 million people show up to vote. 11 of those 16 million vote for the ruling party.
Sure. Sis Phumi, let's get into more detail with this in the second hour of the show. So we'll see you guys in a bit. We're going to take a quick break and just recalibrate as I just joined the show as well.
Can I get a coffee?
Let's go get some coffee. And you guys get your coffee as well.
Hey, welcome back to the Gareth Cliff Show. You were joined by myself, Mashy Mash, and the also fabulous, also always wonderful Sis Phumi Mashejo. And this morning, Sis Phumi, first of all, it's been quite a week. How do you feel about the week that has been, how can I put it? Transpiring in front of our eyes, or the fire that's been transpiring in front of our eyes.
Mash, where were you in the first hour? I love that. Must be that extra hour of sleep that
I was
you got.
driving behind a taxi in the first hour. That's it, from Springs. That's what I was doing in the first hour. when I was listening to the show, and when Aaron was like, "Listen, when you're driving behind a slow taxi in the fast lane," I was like, that's me right now. It has been
What's Agalade is red, guys?
I have absolutely no idea ever, because it's the pits. But I've been having a good time that side. And I hope you guys have been having a good time as well. Please don't forget to tweet us on Twitter using hashtag GCS Live. Also use hashtag Burning Platform so we can see exactly what you guys think of the highlights of the Burning Platform that we'll be sharing with you guys later on today, as well as your thoughts on what has been transpiring throughout the week.
So you got it together? We've got a highlights package. Best of.
I believe so. I do believe so, Sis Phumi, and I'm so excited to see it. I haven't seen it at all, by the way.
You haven't seen it?
I haven't seen it.
So we literally have 12 minutes, is what I've been told. We have 12 minutes, and I'm desperate to hear your thoughts about what we saw. So 2 things.
Yes.
Over the past couple of days, starting last week, Friday, I think.
Yes.
And ending on Tuesday was the ANC Elective and Policy Conference. Believe it or not, guys, the conference was actually to elect officials as well as to debate. We were talking earlier about policies and what people stand for, as well as to debate and create resolutions of ANC policy, which presumably would become what the ruling party campaigns on, the platform that they campaign on, and also the kind of laws or that they will push in the next dispensation, right? So in the next term of government, this is what they were supposed to be doing.
And all I can say,
I don't know if that is what they were doing. Were you watching? So everybody knows that I was watching, because I am the geek that watches all of these things. I was up at 1 a.m, scrolling through my timeline, all my favorite reporters who are reporting live from the conference, looking at what's on ENCA, what's on Newsroom, what's on SABC, as things were unfolding at the time, in the middle of the night, to see where are we, what's happening, what's going on. So first, you tell me if you watched.
First of all, Sis Phumi,
listened.
I didn't watch.
Okay.
But I was following on Twitter. And I have a note to say, if your primary source of news and information about the conference was from Twitter this past week, then hey, you would have thought Zulim Kiza was going to win the ANC presidency. You would have thought so. These people, honestly, if real life was according to Twitter, EFF would be the ruling party. These people on Twitter, yep, but the way they vote is always left. But they're always saying right on Twitter. I don't know if they're trying to mislead us, or if the people on Twitter aren't the actual people voting. They're part of that 24 million that you mentioned earlier. The people who are not voting, they're voting on Twitter and not in real life. But it was so eventful. A quick recap of the top 7 to start off with. I mean, we have the president of the ANC, who is still Ramaphosa. The deputy president is Paul Mashatile. The chairperson is Gwede Mantashe. The secretary general is Fikile Mbalola. The first deputy secretary general is Nomvula Mukonyani. The second deputy secretary general is Marupene Ramokgopa. And treasurer general...
Marupini Ramaphosa.
Oh, okay. I'm going to say it right going forward. And then the treasurer general is Gwen Ramokgopa. And it was quite interesting. It was very interesting. But I was shocked about Nomvula Mukonyana. Hey? Mama Action.
Why were you shocked?
Because our favorite Bosasa beneficiary, this woman, honestly, after the whole scandal with the Bosasa, I... first of all, didn't quite trust her. And secondly, her skeletons have always been out there. she's one person whose skeletons have always been out there. I always say that this woman is 2 LV bags away from finding herself in a butternut orange suit behind bars. And I was very confused as to why was she in the running?
Okay, so but all of those people in that top 7, and then yesterday the rest of the list came out
Yes.
because the ANC NEC is actually made up of 80 odd people.
Mm.
And so there were lots and lots and lots and lots of
Oh.
other people who also made it into the list.
Mm.
That came out yesterday.
Yes.
All of those top people, if you look at all of them and just, you don't even have to scratch the surface. There is one scandal or another.
Mm. I mean, I saw Mduduzi Manana
The whiff
made
of
it.
a smell of
Mm.
a scandal with each and every one of those top 7 people.
Because another person who actually absolutely shocked me was Mduduzi Manana, because this guy, there was articles earlier on during the week saying that no, he's disqualified from even being in the running to be in the NEC. And the next thing I know, I see on Twitter, I'm reading through the list. I read through every single name. I'm like, and he's like number 2 on the list somewhere there. And I was like, hey, Bo, what's going on? He's the guy who threw a jug on somebody's head. I'm sorry, no. He's not that one.
He's
the one
guy
who,
that
the
beat
woman
up a
beater,
woman
because she called him gay.
outside Cabana.
Oh yeah, where I was this past weekend. And just because she called him gay, the guy who actually broke a jug over someone's head was Andile Lungisa.
Lungisa from the Eastern Cape.
He's the one who actually in particular caught my attention, because he's the one who broke a jug over somebody's head. And I think he was also responsible for losing millions for an R. Kelly concert that did not quite happen.
Bona, they were just flying at that conference. So that conference it has a lot of things. But there's also, did you see who did not make it onto the list?
No, who didn't make it?
Pravin Gordon did not make it into the list.
Mm.
Tulas Nwesi did not make it onto the list. Natim Tetwa did not make it onto the list. These individuals I name particularly because they are cabinet ministers. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma,
yes,
I think also didn't make it onto the list.
But Batabile Dlamini made it.
Batabile Dlamini did make it onto the list.
Malusi Kigaba made it.
Malusi Kigaba made it onto the list.
Beki Kale made it.
Beki Kale did not make it onto the list.
Oh, he didn't make it.
I think he is also one of the individuals who did not make it onto the list.
Sure.
So, Mash, I remember you telling me how old you are last week.
Yes.
And I was particularly interested and excited to hear your view of all that has transpired.
Mm.
So are you optimistic? Are you sad? Are you excited? What does this mean to you?
I'm not going to lie.
Conflicted.
I'm very conflicted at the moment. Main reason being that, so this is how I look at it, né? How I look at politics, how I look at the government as a whole. I always say that no party in this country is going to liberate us as long as officials are getting perks in their positions. So no matter who, for me, is in power, it doesn't matter who's in power, as long as they are disconnected from the people, as long as they are not in tune with what is actually happening on the ground within the country, they will never be able to resonate with us. They will never be able to actually solve any of our problems. And that is something that I've been trying to emphasize to everyone that I know. And as long as government officials...
What does that mean? So what does that mean for you? What does it mean for you? What does it look like when they resonate, when they see, when they understand?
So for me, it's, first of all, as long as government officials are still not getting the likes of load shedding, it's very low level stuff, Sis Phumi. As long as they're not getting load shedding, as long as they're not experiencing traffic like the rest of us because they have body blue light brigades to convoy them everywhere, as long as they're not experiencing water shading, that's not a thing, apparently, and as long as they're not paying their own electricity bills, it's bare minimum things, they will never resonate with us because they do not know the life or the struggles that an ordinary South African, no matter what age, is going through on a daily basis. And it's difficult to resonate to someone that you don't align with at all. You don't know that our problems, you hear about our problems, but until you experience them yourself, you will never have that sense of urgency. We are tweeting from dark homes. When now you're tweeting from your home with lights, it's not urgent for you.
You're tweeting. Mesh, nifunani. Nifunani, you are tweeting.
That is exactly the problem. That is the problem. I have to agree there. But I also think that well, first of all, I am glad that I didn't hear too much mention of apartheid. Yes, I do agree that apartheid was an atrocity, but unfortunately, we have certain elements in all races dying to keep it alive, and the ANC has no consideration of the youth. They just want to get on. Hey, the youth just want to get on. They just want to live freely without encumbrances from the past in a fair, just, and equal life in this country, in this democracy.
So over the weekend, as you were on Twitter watching what's happening,
Yes.
what do you feel you know about the policies that might have possibly been discussed? Do you know? Do you care?
The policies, I really do. I actually don't know too much. I do care. I actually haven't dug too much into them because actually nobody is sharing too much about the policies on Twitter. It was mostly about the ANC as a whole, about what they stand for. I do know that their new messaging is what is it? ANC renewal. They're renewing the ANC. From what I've seen, looks like they're recycling the ANC, but asikho lapho. I do know that they're trying to push for economic freedom for all. That's one thing they're really trying to push. And as a young person, I'm not seeing that happening. I'm not seeing that happening, Sis Phumi. But what is the policies that they're trying to push?
So, and this is, sorry, we were talking about it a little bit earlier with Aaron. So this is the important thing for me is not just understanding the personalities, and we do have a country where the politicians have huge personalities, whether it's Julius Malema, Mangosuthu Buthelezi, UPM with Holomisa. There's lots of personalities. So Cyril Ramaphosa versus Zweli Mkhize. I would much rather have been having a conversation about policy differences between Zweli Mkhize and a Cyril Ramaphosa. Not that I think Zweli Mkhize, whatever his policies are, I felt a little bit like I was in the twilight zone because I kept thinking, guys, this man during a pandemic, he and his family looted. He was the Minister of Health during a health pandemic.
Yep.
This man and his family were like looting state coffers for personal enrichment. His son and that silly sheep with the Louis Vuitton scarf. I'm like, why is nobody having that conversation? And unfortunately, I think also our media is very complicit in some of these conversations, either being forgotten or not being spoken about adequately enough, because they are so enraptured by the sexiness of it all. I mean, it's so it's heady, right? One of the things that watching the conference, I'm looking at all the singing and the chanting and the dancing. It felt a little bit like a revival. It was like,
it did.
When you grow up in a church. These like Easter services, all the old people singing. That shit is so exciting. And so it catches you, like it sweeps you up.
Yes.
And that's unfortunately also one of the things that happens. But this morning as I was driving here, I was also thinking just in terms of media being complicit in creating this personality of cult, this cult of personality for our politicians. And them thinking they're celebrities. That's what makes them think they're celebrities. They're on TV, they're on radio, everybody's talking to them. Everybody wants to be around them. But also a little bit of a dereliction of duty, I think, on the part of our electoral commission. Because one of the things that they do, they're the referee.
Yeah.
They're the referee for elections. They're the referee for how even communities get to experience these parties.
Yes.
This past weekend was a terrible ad. A terrible ad for the ANC, but it was an ad nonetheless. It was a weekend long, like 5 days
Yo.
of advertising this party.
Mm.
And I'm wondering if we're going to see the same thing. If we're going to see the same thing when the EFF goes to their conference, their electoral conference, because they're also going to have one. I'm wondering if we're going to see the same thing when the DA has their electoral conference, if we're going to see similar coverage, if we're going to hear as much, if we're going to have like wall-to-wall reporting. Looking at the newspapers on Sunday, the Sunday papers, where like 4-5 pages are all just the various personalities. I want to see this also about John Steenhuisen and whoever else like
Yes.
competes for the big seat in the DA. I want to know who's competing against Julius, if anyone dares to compete with Julius for the. And will they also be called the CIC?
But I read an article last night by Justice Malala where he refers to the ANC as a crocodile-infested river. And I think this is quite an accurate analogy for this entire conference, because it has been nothing but just personality and personality. It was like we're watching a reality show, sis Phumi. And as you mentioned as well, that when it comes, ask anyone who was watching this, especially people in my age group, or most people, about the policies. We don't know the policies. We don't know the policies. We were so encaptured and thrown into this whirlwind of the festivity and the drama of it all that it was like smoke and mirrors, sis Phumi. It was smoke and mirrors.
Oh wow.
And we were completely distracted from the fact that Bona, their policy, what's happening there. And I saw another article where Julius Malema did say as well, he's been announcing that one. Oh, anyone who will interview him, just put a mic in front of his face and he'll jump on it. And I saw him say that he's going to make Cyril Ramaphosa's life very difficult, that the EFF is going to get him out no matter what. They're going to do whatever it takes to make his life a living hell. And as a young person, I don't even know their policy. All I know is that they want land. That's all I know. And when he says things like this, that's what we focus on. That's what all our attention is on. Smoke and mirrors. We're always distracted. So distracted by the stuff that doesn't matter, that the stuff that actually does matter gets lost in the ether. So
what matters to you? You Mash. So you're not like holding up a microphone for all the young people.
Yes.
Just you Mash. What matters to you? What do you want to hear as policy in any party that would sway you to vote for them?
Well, I want any party that I were to support going forward to resonate with me, and in a manner that I think they should be empowering the economy. I think that they should be creating more jobs. I think they should be creating more opportunities. And more than that, I think they should be putting in the effort to empower young people, to actually not only say that we're going to empower, but actually elaborate to us, explain to us. Because another thing is that young people aren't really into this stuff. And if we are, we're not really engaged in it to a point where we actually know their policies. And I think they have to educate us on these things as well. So any party I'm going to support has to be transparent, not only give us a reality show. I watch lots of reality shows. I have a Bravo subscription. I need them.
Do not distract me, because now I want to know what reality shows you are. Don't distract me with that.
I need them to actually go into detail about as to how they're going to change our lives, instead of this low-level nonsense that they're spewing out at events, giving us t-shirts where we're running around jumping on trucks for a damn t-shirt. I need them to elaborate, and don't be afraid to go into detail. Don't be afraid to use words that you don't think we might understand. We have cell phones. We can Google them. That's what I want from a party that I'm going to support come the next election.
And what does empower you look like? So I'm looking here, Congo Christmas. Congo Chris changed his name to Congo Christmas. He says the removal of BEE. It's discrimination and is used as a vehicle for the kleptocracy of the ANC. Our unemployment stats are purely driven by red tape of BEE. How Congo? I need to
That is the truth.
there's a whole like in the last State of the Nation, there was an entire individual brought in to be the chief red tape cutter by the president. Is there still red tape? Or have we forgotten about that guy? Anyway,
We've forgotten about him.
But
you know what?
right along. So that is his one. If anybody else wants to share with us in the comments what they want to hear political parties talk about in their policies that would make them change their minds about who they vote for.
Yes, please share in the comments, share on Twitter using hashtag GCS Live.
Terrence Cameron says there's no youth reps in the new ANC top 7. The fossils want to rule forever.
I heard somewhere someone was like, yeah, Mang is the youngest person. And then I think it was Gwen. I think Gwen is the youngest person in the top 7. She's about 47. And then people on Twitter were debating that that's not young. But other people were like, yeah, but that's young in a holistic view compared to everyone in the top 7. She's young.
I'll just remind everybody, it's at this moment that I'll just remind everybody that the median age of South Africans is 27.
Exactly.
Aaron.
Aaron.
Aaron. You're like, this is where the majority of South Africans are like driving crazy on the 27-year-olds.
Yes.
Hardly developed.
But we're being signaled that, listen, we have to get to the highlights now. I'm so excited to see them. As I said earlier, Sis Phumi, I have not seen them. So I'm also going to be here watching. And guys, please share your thoughts in the comments as well. Share your thoughts on Twitter. Share your thoughts wherever you want to share your thoughts using hashtag Burning Platform, hashtag GCS Live. And let's get talking. And young people, we need to step up and we need to also be on our Googles. We need to be reading these policies and be on our Googles. As some belief.
On Googles, not on Twitter.
Yes.
Or at least follow some people. Do you follow some?
Okay, go ahead.
I have one question before you say goodbye to Alan. The World Cup, and I know this is not a Gareth type of question, but the World Cup is around the corner. What do you think England's prospects are? This is important.
Well,
it's an important question.
Well, look, anyone who's an England supporter has known that for years it's dangerous to make predictions about England and it's dangerous to dare to dream. But, we came so close. In the last major championships, the team is still, bubbling along there. Hope springs eternal. We think it might be the time after, how many years is it? Nearly 50 years, 60 years. We're going to get there eventually and win the World Cup again and bring football home. You asked the right question.
What is Joburg's number one problem right now?
So my number one priority has always been electricity, just because it's such an enabler and it's an economic driver. Joburg is the economic hub of the country. We contribute about 15% of the country's GDP.
Mm-hmm.
And if we can enable business and enable economic growth, people will be in jobs and a lot of things will take care of themselves. Our housing backlog is as a result of unemployment. We've got over 400,000 people waiting for a free house. If those people got jobs tomorrow, that takes care of that problem.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of our challenges have to do with our inability to support business. And if we can do that right, then a lot of things take care of themselves. Another economic driver is safety, of course. And we are investing quite heavily in safety, as you have seen. We've increased police visibility. We've increased even just the boots on the ground. And we'll keep doing that year on year because our police person to population ratios are way lower than what they're supposed to be. And that's a concern. But we are also working more closely with the SAPs and other law enforcement agencies and looking at smart policing as well, just so that we can do more more with less. But at the end of the day, people need to be in jobs. And for that to happen, the economy needs to grow. And for the economy to grow, government needs to create an enabling environment. And it talks to providing electricity, making sure potholes are filled, traffic lights are working, there's adequate safety and security.
How about this then? Someone says here, what do we do about ESCOM? And both of you can have a go at this, because this is the central issue in our economy at the moment. Everything is dependent on us being able to supply reliable electricity. Otherwise, everybody from the little caravan that makes boerewors rolls and mohodu to, the big corporate office building in Sandton that has 10,000 employees. Everyone is affected by this thing. What do we do there?
It's so easy. Let private sector invest. Let us, broad private sector, invest, take the risk in you can invest in coal-fired plants, in my view. You could do nuclear, you can do gas, fracking. We've got tons of shale gas under the Karoo. And renewable energy, why not? Keep going. But we need baseload power. Let the private sector solve the problem. We can do it in 2 seconds.
Top things that government is there for. Because if we figure that out, we can also figure out, all right, well, what can we do without them? And what should we be doing for ourselves? And making it sustainable so that kids will be given opportunities to learn in education institutions, where people will be allowed opportunities to work, to make a meaningful contribution to society. And those are the kinds of things that become the big questions. I don't think we need politicians to solve those things for us. We must figure them out ourselves in think tanks and civil institutions like Phumi and you and I are talking about.
They must hand over the budget, though. I mean, that over a trillion rand budget would come in handy in the hands of the people.
You will have to pry it from their cold dead hands. They will never hand it over. You will have to pry it from their.
It's the thing that they want. I spoke to one veteran in the ANC ecosystem, and he said he's.
Sorry, we need a moment. Say that again. In the ANC
ecosystem.
Okay.
Yeah,
all right.
It's quite an ecosystem that works in.
You look at the evidence at the State Capture Commission. There was clear evidence, for example, implicating a cabinet minister like Gwedi Montage in corruption, a senior ANC member like Nomvulo Mokonyane. Nothing has happened. Where's the investigations? Nothing. Absolutely nothing has happened. Not only is Gwedi Montage the king of coal in this country, he also has a sword hanging over his head. What does it tell? What does it tell other politicians, other members of other members of the cabinet, members of parliament? You can get away with it. There's no consequences.
But what does it tell the policeman on the street? What does it tell the policeman on the street that they can get away with it?
The ordinary South African citizen is looking at this going, well, if all of those guys are getting away with it, why the hell should I be honest? Why should I do all the right things? And why should I follow the law?
Of the boy that was literally taking a poo on the sidewalk the other day when I got there. And he was smiling at me while he was pooing, waving at me, very friendly. And it's so normal. And the reason I use this as an example is that he doesn't understand, and it's not his fault. He doesn't have a toilet or anything, but that being said, the adults in the area, I think we need to somehow influence the general culture of people to have enough self-respect to at least clean up after themselves. Because, and this is something I want to use as the Mitchell's Plain, from the Mitchell's Plain community. I'm astounded that when I get there in the morning, I'm actually going there after this. I'm astounded at how many people literally, with soap and water, wash the sidewalk in front of their houses every morning. So they stand there washing it with a broom and even with hot water. It's a strange principle to me. But the point is that it feels like people are taking accountability for their self-respect, and they're taking accountability for their direct surroundings. And that definitely makes an impact.
If I just went on murder statistics on their own and with no further outside external reference, anywhere from Hanover Park to what's the other one, Lavender Hill, or anywhere on the Cape Flats, because some of those spots have murder rates in excess of 150 murders per 100,000 population if you if you had to extrapolate from it, which is actually worse than most active war zones, with the exception of Syria.
Wow.
That was about 2 years ago.
Extraordinary.
So
what I am saying is that for a very long time, South Africa has been on this trajectory. So and we do have the highest tax regime in the world, right? And for a very long time, that's why I bring the numbers of 2020. This has been the indicator. And what our government has failed to do for a good, probably since about 2011, what our government has failed to do is read the signs and respond accordingly. The very far extreme, which nobody saw coming, and analysts are always, one of my favorite quotes is how analysts get it wrong 50% of the time, and the other 50% of the time it surprises them, right? We did not see Ukraine coming, but what was all the indicators that we saw in the past 2-3 years, and now that's why I bring up the issue of Nancy Pelosi going to Taiwan, is some kind of struggle between China and America. At the worst case scenario, it being an all-out war. Our government has failed to look at all of those signs and say, how do we make the cost of living for South Africans a more workable situation? And where we are today is that they need short-term solutions for a problem that has been building for a very long time.
The ANC effectively made a decision, for whatever reason, that it was not going to seek redress. And the other thing is, of course, that the TRC recommended compensation for the victims. And that money, there was Patricia DeLille speaks about this, but that money ended up, which was budgeted for, ended up, supposed to be a social development plan, going into buying arms from the very same people that the apartheid government was doing business with. I mean,
and what it'll do is it'll clearly show that the ANC gave up their moral capital right at the very beginning in order to seek a compromise with the government that they had replaced. And if you start with that, it's like a relationship. If your relationship starts with cheating, guess what? It's going to end with cheating. And that's exactly what the South African public have learned by both of these two hideous and horrendous regimes, both of whom are very different, but have ugly, nasty underbellies that need examination.
What if that moral compass we think they have is actually something that we imbued on them and was never really there?
Now, if you suggest that it is within our body politic that we are corrupt to the teeth, you'd be incorrect. Because the few individuals that have participated in corruption has, of course, destroyed the image of the ANC. But we shouldn't make a mistake and think that those officials in government are members of the ANC. In fact, they are not members of the ANC in their majority. And these are the people that have enabled corruption between officials and politicians to have happened.
Dada, can I ask this question? Can I ask this question?
Only politicians will be involved in corruption.
Dada,
yes, you can.
So if Cyril Ramaphosa spent, the number is $1 billion.
Well, I wanted to come to that point that
get
the
to
only
quickly.
weakness of the ANC was not to regulate. No, the ANC has not accepted and acknowledged that throughout the world, lobbying and campaigning for leadership positions should, of course, be funded. And the ANC is trying to ignore the reality that, in fact, it has to accept that there will be funding, therefore regulate as to how this funding should happen when people contest for position. It happens in all political parties, by the way.
But
and it's a new thing, of course, in the ANC since 2007. I hear your point.
What is the plan? What's the end game for Operation Tutula?
I love the question that you are asking, that yes, we'll keep on putting pressure on the government, but the question will be then, how do the same people who failed to deal with the issue for the past 5 years or so, if I'm not mistaken. And then what makes you believe that they'll solve it now? Will they have what it takes to deal with it now if they failed all these years? So our members on the ground, they are talking about that we can remain civic movement, but maybe align with political parties that who are willing to listen to South Africans and take the issues head on, or we are going to go to polls ourselves and deal with the problem. So there are various options on that one. But at the moment, as it stands, it's a civic
How long were
movement.
you MMC for?
I think for about 3 months, I would think.
All right. And why didn't that last? Is it because the local government collapsed because of the coalitions not holding together?
Yes, because the DA was arrogant and racist. And as a result, we left the coalition.
So who would you guys be in a coalition with?
Anybody. Our president was clear from the onset. He was the most truthful politician to this country when he said that we will go with anybody, even the Avia, if I have to quote him. So he was truthful about that. I'm not sure why anybody is
the reason you left the
surprised.
DA coalition is because they were racist and arrogant. I mean, surely the RVB are racist by definition. So that's a silly comment to make. It doesn't make sense.
How doesn't it make sense?
Well,
If I say to you,
you just said why you got out of the DA coalition because of arrogance and racism. Then you tell me, oh no, but we would be in an alliance with anybody, including the RVB, who by definition are racist. So where are your principles?
But in the past couple of weeks, you've been tweeting quite loudly, I would say, about the border control issues and AfriForum, which is and AfriForum taking on this responsibility, which is not the private prosecution wing, but because now you are linked to AfriForum, is that what you have become? Is this you've come to this organization because you believe in what this organization, not just the private prosecution, but also AfriForum, and you are lending your credibility to that?
I think what you're seeing there is, and even when I was a journalist, I still have opinions, and I'm going to voice opinions. On the question of the border matter, and my comment there specifically was, and this is a fair question, I think, the Department of Home Affairs, as well as the SANDF, both claim that for private individuals to patrol a border is plainly unlawful. But nobody in the reports that I've read actually asks either of those bodies, the SANDF or the Department of Home Affairs, well, what law are you referring to? What offense is it for a group of private people to walk along the border, whether they've got a dog on a leash? Where is the offense in doing this? I mean, a lot of these properties, as we understand it, are on the border itself, so it would be private individuals on their own land. And it was merely a question to, well, if you're going to tell us that it's against the law, tell us what law.
But we got to talk about this hate speech case, the Kill the Boer case, as it's been called. I want to start off by just saying that the status at the moment is that the court found, this is the Equality Court, found that it is not hate speech to sing Kill the Boer. AfriForum has, of course, appealed that case, and they're going to take it up a level where they hope to have it declared hate speech. Now, Ernst, I haven't had this conversation with you before, but in some ways, you've kind of paradoxically done me a favor, because the more narrow hate speech is, the more I can get away with on my show. The more narrow, like I feel, obviously, if someone says kill X, Y, and Z, to me, that's, clean cut kind of incitement and all the rest of it. And I don't understand what the judge might have thought here, because all the things that the judge said didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. But selfishly, I'm kind of pleased with this finding, and I don't want you to appeal, because to my mind, if hate speech is so narrow that even saying kill Gareth or kill Phumi is not hate speech, then I can say whatever I want. Then we truly have almost a First Amendment of the United States kind of hate speech, where even incitement in the form of like kill X, Y, and Z isn't enough to get you into trouble.
I think that they are living in their own world. If you look at the things that were mentioned in the conference, like, for example, they were talking about increasing or introducing a wealth tax that's going to fund this 350 Rand grant. And then also at the same time, they talked about having a state-owned bank And they also propose that the Reserve Bank has to be nationalized and its mandate in the Constitution has to be changed to include tackling unemployment. And the reality is that if anyone can just look at how to tackle unemployment and how to reduce poverty and so forth, you don't need to take such drastic measures. But I just think what's happening now is that they're trying to increase the power of the state, so much so that if the times do get bad, they still got some resources that they can use to sustain themselves. So that's what's happening, and they are out of touch with reality because, I mean, if you look at South Africa's unemployment rate, I think it's at its highest ever.
Well, you seem to choose opportunities sometimes which get you into huge trouble, Rob. You've gone again out of the frying pan into the fire. You were just starting to melt back into the business world and to do the right thing and kind of get all your stuff up and running and do the deals that you have to do to make stuff happen. And then you had to go and bloody open your mouth again. You fool. Why?
Oh, I don't know. I don't feel like I'm doing anything that special. I mean, I'm telling it like it is. There was a movie in the 80s or 90s, which was, where this guy hung out of the window of his apartment in New York and was shouting, "Enough is enough." And I just feel like I'm that guy, but I shouldn't be the only one. I think a vast majority of the people in this country are feeling the same thing. And even though I've just said, Cyril, you're to blame, you're responsible, and he is, and the ANC cabinet, who are absolutely useless, name by name, we should go through them. I mean, they're just idiots. It shouldn't just be me, because if I didn't talk about the ANC and didn't talk about Cyril, and I said, enough is enough. We've had enough of load shedding. We've had enough of sewage being pumped into the ocean. We've had enough of potholes. We've had enough of waiting forever to get a visa that we are legitimately allowed to get. We've had enough of, and I can go on and on and on and on. Enough of, state-owned enterprises being bankrupted. We're enough of mafias getting in the way of efficiency in the state. If I presented it that way, we'd have 95% of the population saying, I agree. But the next step is clearly why. And the reason why is because the majority voted in the ANC government, and they've delivered us these idiots in the cabinet who have no interest in the country as a whole.
I've always viewed South Africa as a country that adopted us. There was no discrimination. If I had gone to anywhere in Europe or Australia or anywhere else, we would always be these Polish immigrants. We were kind of second-class citizens. In South Africa embraced us effectively, and my family lives here to this day. And so I always had this strong feeling that I need to give back. It's not enough just to take. You do need to give back. And, I also believe in the fact that to be successful, it's not just about hard work. There are lots of people who work really, really hard. Just people on this call are working really, really hard. So, to be successful, you truly have to have a healthy dose of luck. And, that is what happened to me. So, in building up companies, healthy dose of luck, being in the right place at the right time. And consequently, I don't think it was enough to just sit back and accept what came to me and, celebrate what happened. I really do have a very strong feel of kind of moral justice and the fact that I truly want to give back.
A message from somebody yesterday to please help understand how US government works. Now, I could get Brooks Spector to do this for you, but I'll do a very brief overview because there are a lot of people who are confused by how this works. And in the US elections, you may be confused as to what a governor is, what are the others, the senator, what a representative is. So let me help you understand. So each American state, America is a federation of states. It's the United States of America. So all of the states pretty much run themselves, and in the vision that was outlined by the founding fathers, the states themselves had the ability to run 90% of what went on inside of them. Each state has its own executive function, which is the governor. The governor is kind of a state version of the president. He leads the state. He's got a lieutenant governor who's similar to the vice president, but at state level. Then each state has two senators, and they are both at federal and state level, meant to be representing the state's interests. There was also, because when Jefferson introduced the idea of a Senate to the founding fathers, and in the Constitution and the founding documents of the United States, the original idea of the senators was that America would be an empire, and that the senators would also run the overseas dominions of that American empire. This was 1789, so the world was really just empires and vassal states. That's all there was. And America didn't see itself as a vassal state. They'd just broken off from Britain, and they wanted to be a global power. And that obviously came to fruition many years later. But you have governors at the state level, and then you have state legislatures, which is kind of like our provincial legislatures, like where the Free State, woman was in the sex tape with the Nigerian dude.
With a little bit more power, a little bit more autonomy.
Yeah, should be plenty.
Federation.
Correct. The federal system means that the state should be more important than the federal government.
What is fascinating for me in the 2019 elections, I was watching Guyana closely. Why? Because Guyana didn't have water in most parts of Guyana for a month before the 2019 elections. And the ANC's vote share there declined from 75%. Can you just take a guess to what?
No idea. Tell us.
74%. So it dropped 1 percentage point. So I said, wow, the ANC as a political party is absolutely impressive that they have convinced people in a part of Limpopo where there hasn't been water for a month to entrust them and give them another mandate for 5 years.
Guys, here's a trick question for you. Which is the best performing currency in the world right now?
Someone told me this, and I can't remember now. I know the strongest currency in the world, I think, is the Kuwaiti dollar, Kuwaiti dinar. What is it?
No, I'm talking about which has been the best performing currency in terms of appreciating against the US dollar. It's the Zambian kwacha.
Really?
Oh, I saw that. I actually saw that.
It has been the Zambian kwacha. It fairly recently overtook the ruble as the best performing.
Let's talk about why we're in court. We're not in court because we're fighting a political battle. We're in court because council is run based on certain laws of this country, the Constitution, the Structures Act, and the rules of council. And when those are not respected by either the speaker or any of the councillors, and decisions are made, key decisions that affect the lives of the people on the ground, then we do need to approach the courts for relief. That's what that battle is about. It was a fight for democracy. It was a fight for the rule of law. It was not a political fight.
And you see, I don't have a problem with the court battles going on as well as all of this. I mean, you can walk and chew gum at the same time. And the DA has been very successful in pursuing court battles and bringing some people to book and making sure that the rule of law is respected.
That process.
Sure.
Process is one thing, right? I would like you to maybe expand a little bit on this latest battle that you now have with the speaker.
So what the speaker did is she failed to self-correct after the court judgment that was issued last week. It's last week. Mm-hmm. She wanted to bring the very same motion that was deemed inadmissible before. She wanted to bring the same motion to another council meeting and engage in another illegal process, which we were not going to just sit back and allow, because again, like I said, the court battle is about democracy. It's about respecting democracy, respecting the laws of the country, respecting the rules of council. It would be a sad day, the day we all decide to set our rule books aside. How are we going to run council? How are we going to run the city? Mm-hmm. So we can't allow that, not on our watch. We have to appeal to the judiciary to help us make her realize that she operates in a legal framework and she needs to respect
Is looking at where we sit in the economics of our country, with high unemployment, with an incredible lack of skills because of our dismal education system. Mm-hmm. Where to, Quo Vadis? Where to from here? What can the minister? What can the minister do for us, if anything? What can small businesses do to turn the situation around? And what can people like you and I look forward to in this year ahead?
Well, I suppose, what's going to be coming out of next week is which is probably something that you guys, I imagine that Phumlani and Gareth, I would maybe assume their views on is the basic income grant. There's going to be news on that, and and whether we can afford it, which we can't really. But so I think that's going to be one of the biggest themes to emerge from the budget, whether or not they've that is actually going to be on the cards. I mean, a lot of people are pushing for it, but the cost to the fiscus will be immense, and it can only really be borne if then you get much stronger economic growth, which we show no signs of attaining. Phumi, you mentioned our incredibly low, our incredibly low employment figures, our incredibly high unemployment, and this weird concurrent lack of skills. It's sort of a terrible toxic combination. But you really need political will to sort this out. And Cyril yesterday effectively stood by his cabinet and said he absolutely has faith in them, and the
South African people have faith in them, and that's what he said. I mean, it's outrageous. We don't have faith in his cabinet. Who's he talking to?
Stood by his cabinet as he builds a parallel structure within the presidency.
Exactly. If you stand by your cabinet, why are you bringing in Sipho Nkosi and Mvuso Mzima?
To defend Thabo, though, just for a little bit, he has to say that. You have to stand in front of your people and say, comrades, we're important.
No,
the world needs us. If we don't say that, these parasites that are tearing the ANC apart right now will just keep going. And so if you try to redirect them in a positive way, that's just Thabo Mbeki trying his best to redirect the parasites and the tenderpreneurs to something more positive.
Unfortunately for Thabo, he is in this situation that the Bapedi call Khomuya Moshate. He is what would be the English? So he's between catch 22. That's guys, you must know I'm angry when I'm now only speaking in the vernacular. My head is not computing in the English anymore.
No.
He is because Thabo Mbeki should have actually, and Thabo Mbeki must take some of the blame for what has happened to the ANC, because he was one of the people that brought weak people around him who have grown to become because he needed that power, because he wanted to be the cleverest person in the room. And unfortunately, when you bring in weak people around you, you are left with what? A weak party when you are gone. He should have stayed home with his whiskey.
Well, I mean, he screwed up even while he was president by thinking that he was smarter than the coalition of the disenchanted that gathered around him and eventually ousted him from power, as you may recall. I mean, there were some of us. I'll admit, I was more of a Thabo Mbeki fan then than I knew, but I was quite excited about what the novelty of what Jacob Zuma was bringing would be.
I remember a debate, Gareth. I remember a debate where you stood very firmly on the side of Jacob Zuma is what we need.
And was I wrong? Absolutely. You were talking about Fred Khumalo, admitting that he was wrong about the IOL thing. Yes, I'm admitting I was wrong there.
I remember saying a populist president is not what we need, and that we're going to miss Thabo Mbeki. We're actually going to miss Thabo Mbeki because under Thabo Mbeki we had some growth there. And
load shedding when Alec Irwin was the minister in that portfolio. Do you remember? And everybody says, "Oh no, but the Thabo Mbeki administration, everything ran well." They stopped looking after the power plants and they stopped planning forward in advance. And we know that the Guptas made a ton of cash out of mostly the coal side of things. In fact, that's probably where they made the lion's share of their money. But we don't hear about any heads rolling. We see these guys pitching up at the hearings in front of Judge Zondo, but nothing's happened to them. They're probably still living large. Nice big pension.
Of course, accountability in South Africa is an area that needs to be addressed. I mean, but let's be fair. Eskom itself is not an investigating authority. It's got a hard enough job doing what it's supposed to do, and that is to provide abundant, low-cost, reliable electricity to business, to industry, to consumers, to farmers, etc. And these kind of investigations are very distracting. Eskom says that they have now placed volumes of evidence before the Special Investigation Unit, before the prosecuting authorities, and really it's their job to take it forward. We know it's not just at Eskom, but across the board that the prosecuting authorities seem to be overwhelmed, under-resourced, hollowed out, and are just not producing the prosecutions. They're not even bringing them to court, let alone achieving prosecution. So I think the problem there goes well beyond Eskom. There is a new era of accountability at Eskom. I'm sure there's lots more to be done, plenty. But at least there's a new attitude. We've still got to see that drive through the organization and also drive through the prosecuting authorities. And then
I have to ask you, McKinsey's hands are filthy. And McKinsey,
Absolutely, yes.
All over the world, it seems that all these people do is get paid a huge amount of money by governments to involve themselves in some of the most corrupt activities. And what I'm saying, I'm obviously saying with great care and thought, because this is a powerful corporation that will sue if they believe that's not true. They won't sue because in South Africa, their hands are so deep into the till and they're so dirty that they've actually been trying behind the scenes to exit quietly from the stage left without anyone noticing. Canton, it's not possible for them to do that, though, is it? Everybody already knows how dirty they are.
Yes, but Zondo clearly thinks otherwise, and so that's part of the issue that I have. The second part of the problem that I have with the Zondo report is that there is nothing that in any way fingers our president. Because remember, he was sitting at the right hand of Jacob Zuma for the entire time, and we don't see anything that actually puts him in the hot seat at any level. So these are the two issues that I have off the top of my head.
Okay.
This is why I say when you go back to the question of does Shamila Batoy possibly not have any grounds on which to actually go after people based on Zondo? And I think the answer to that is yes, because of the fact that she's not able to do anything without in some way incriminating the current crop of leadership.
Yeah.
Oh, Catherine, but you know everything currently, whether it is mainstream media, whether it's political analysts, everything currently is constructed around protecting and treating with kid gloves our president. Everything. Nobody criticizes the man, right? People were shocked that when he arrived at the May Day celebrations in Rustenburg, he was booed off the stage. I was like, yeah, that's how people are feeling, and they don't care. But that was hardly made the news. I mean, it was like a two-second clip, if any, and then quickly moved on.
Yeah, embarrassing, right? I mean, this shows you how far we've come. I don't think I can remember an occasion where an ANC president, at May Day in particular,
it happened to Jacob Zuma.
Booed off the stage. No.
It happened to Jacob Zuma.
He
Really?
wasn't booed off the stage. Jacob Zuma did not run. Jacob Zuma stood his ground and just simply got his goons to get everyone together. But, Cyril goes running off and then he apologizes.
Transnet and Eskom are appealing for exemptions from the BEE criteria. Now, isn't this ironic? I mean, two government parastatals saying this BEE thing, it's not really helping us to operate properly. How long until we stop with this farce, which is really just an enrichment scheme for the very, very connected members of the ANC, that we call BEE, because then it makes all the black people who have no opportunity in this country feel like they've got maybe a chance somewhere, but they don't.
Yeah, I think it's, well, look, let's quickly go through the background, which is that Agribusiness, otherwise known as Sakeliga, challenged the regulations promulgated by what I like to call our honest communist, Pravin Gordhan, in 2017 when he was finance minister. And those provisions said the following, basically. You're not even allowed to bid if you don't have enough BEE points. And the effect of that is you're not even allowed to name your price, is that the government and the public no longer has an ability to see to what extent is BEE costing more. because some bidders are not even involved in the process. The Supreme Court of Appeal struck that down as completely unconstitutional. The Constitutional Court agreed with the Supreme Court, although on a more narrow basis of reasoning. And that created the situation where all of the regulations for procurement, for hundreds and hundreds of billions of rands of government spending every year, as part of their 2.1 trillion budget, it might even be R1 trillion of spending. That the Dondo Mokajane, the Director General of Treasury, he said, now we don't know, can we use BEE or not? So you are not. So I'm giving you the advice not to buy anything. He literally said we must rather basically grind the whole government to a halt, excepting still pay salaries, but like not fix any machines, not replenish any coal or diesel, not like do any of the hard business of supplying new textbooks to schools and universities. Cancel all of that. If we are not allowed BEE, we're going to cancel all of that. We as the Institute of Race Relations said that's outrageous. The minister, Enoch Godongwana, is empowered by law to offer exemptions to any organs of state that ask for those exemptions on the basis of it being in the national interest. If the only alternatives are that you can't buy anything and grind government to a halt or buy it without BEE, it's clearly in the national interest to buy it without BEE.
For young people to get into positions of real influence. And I think one of the things
experience.
Yes, but now we're using that said experience as a barrier for people. For instance, whether it was a Trevor Manuel or a Tito Mboweni or a Lindiwe Sisulu at 40 years old getting a position of influence, they now see a 40-year-old who has worked in corporate South Africa from the age of 25, 15 years experience, as somebody who's still got to wait to be a DDG or a DG. So you still got to wait, but you got 15 years of corporate experience. You've shown that you can do it. Now, maybe that's human nature. Maybe that's protectionism. Maybe that's internally looking at yourself to say, I've got to make, I as the person, have got to keep everyone at bay. We've got young people complaining about certain babas and mamas who work at Home Affairs who can't even send WhatsApps, and they'll tell you the system was offline when it's actually working because they don't want to work, right? And this is where we've arrived at. Maybe it's very Soviet Union-y of us right now that we want to keep people in jobs that are actually not as effective. Government has shown consistently that they are a terrible allocator of resources, yet we still purposefully kind of like, yes, look to them, but kind of go with cap in hand to them for a lot of stuff. And I agree with you, Phumi. Like, it's such a conundrum to say we need your help, but yes, it's also you're a terrible person, because technically government is the formation of who we think should be leading us as a people. And if we keep kind of like voting for the same inept people, we're going to get the same result. And it's so frustrating because I've started multiple businesses, right?
Steve Biko had a term for that.
Yeah?
Steve Biko had a term for that. It's called acquired self-helplessness.
If you were finance minister, what would you be thinking about? Sheldon, do you want to go first?
What would I be thinking about? I'd really be thinking about how to... I think we've got a massive infrastructure problem. Besides Eskom, our water infrastructure is creaking and about to go. Our roads, maybe not, well, there's the obvious, in terms of potholes, but in terms of networks and the fragility of the infrastructure, getting goods up from our ports to the rest of the country, and having goods move around, especially because our rail system, that's another infrastructure problem. So I would get the I would look at how do we get infrastructure going, because without infrastructure, you can't do anything without water, being able to move your goods. All of that is moot.
This is just an observation, but you started on the expenditure part rather than the income part. I mean, what do you guys think of this Doreta situation? I mean, Pumi's given her perspective to some degree, but I know she's saved most of it for the Burning Platform. And Kanthan, we haven't heard from you. What do you think of what's going on there?
Look, I actually feel for the guy in a way.
Really?
And the reason why I feel for him is that he was never going to be able to turn the thing around. And I know I feel a bit like I'm flogging a bit of a dead horse over here, but remember that we've got this scenario where Doretta is forced to sell a product at a price that is lower than what it costs him to produce it.
Yeah, correct.
So he's got to actually turn Eskom around while selling electricity at a loss. And how the hell do you do that? It's impossible. Now, the reason why he can't actually push up the prices to what they're supposed to be is because of the fact that the price setting is not done by Eskom, it's done by NERSA. And so, well, we're never going to be able to, guys, we'll never be able to get this thing fixed.
Think of this. What do you, is it even significant? Because really, I don't know how much of a voice, I hear what Phumi's saying about how their origins contribute to the story, but really, I think the point that she makes at the end there about how Batabile Dlamini and what's happened over the last 5 to 7 to 10 years, you could probably say, has just been a series of embarrassments and really has let down anybody who did consider the Women's League to be a place of some, some importance, some influence, a place where a certain constituency was given not only credit and a voice, but were also hugely influential. I mean, there was a time when the ANC Women's League was one of the organs that had a big say in who was elected. I don't know if that's true anymore. What do you say?
Yeah, I think this is another sign of the ANC crumbling very slowly. The reason why I think that is the case is that there's a lot of things that are happening within the party. And again, as Phumi said, they have a step aside rule, and then Batabile Dlamini gets found guilty on certain things, and she doesn't step aside, and then they quash the Women's League. I just think that now they're really trying to salvage whatever they can, and it's just not looking good. Because I think even the Youth League also is in a similar status, if I'm not mistaken. So this is not looking good for them in the long run at all. And also, I think with the Women's League, from just the impact perspective, I really haven't seen them do much. That's not to say that they haven't, but I haven't really seen them being impactful in any way whatsoever. And also, I just think it's one of those things, like the gravy train as well. I mean, ANC had a lot of financial problems, and they just it'll just make better financial sense to just disband the Women's League as well. Just like, hey, man, we don't have money, let's just disband the stuff. We can always bring it back later on. And so,
Ethel, would you do it all again? Because I know how much suffering and deprivation this has brought for you and continues to. Would you do it all again? Or would you say to whistleblowers, guys, I got to be honest with you, in my lowest moments, it wasn't worth it. My life was better before I did this.
That's a difficult question to answer, Gareth, because it feels like the heroic thing to say is, oh no, I'll do it all again. I'll accept the wounds and the pain and the broken bones again. And it's horrible going through the pain and the darkness, and where I am now being removed from my family and my home and my community. So I wouldn't want to do it all again. I do think in South Africa, it's actually unethical to encourage someone to be a whistleblower because they're walking into danger. And I don't think we should encourage anyone to self-harm. So I'm hoping that when I am called to do it again, I will do it again. But by then, we've got the right support around whistleblowers. Because right now, there's nothing. Right now, not only are you ostracized or treated with hostility, but there's actually no one backing you up. And those resources are beginning to be developed in South Africa, which is encouraging. But generally, you are left on your own. And that's a perversity to me. It's a bit what Lukhanyo is saying. For me, I take this idea of being a citizen very seriously. I say I enjoy great benefits of being a citizen, but there are also responsibilities of being a citizen. And part of that is for me to do what I can do to fulfill the promise of what our democracy is. And so that's what drives me. What astounds me, absolutely astounds me, is that not many others share that view. And so, I thought I was walking into battle and to my left and to my right and behind me would be, brothers and sisters saying, we're with you, Ethel. And still today, very few are willing to do that.